Subscribe Tag TV YouTube channel and press the notification button. Tag TV UK Talk Show, London Dialogue and Discourse, every Tuesday night 7 p.m. UK time.
You're watching UK Talk Show with Tahir Gora at Tag TV. Today we are talking about Sikh issues around the globe and particularly associated with Kartarpur Corridor and persecution of Sikhs in Pakistan and especially forced conversions of Sikh girls in Pakistan. I'm joined with Ms. Neena Gill, who was member European Parliament and who's associated with Labour Party. So what is your take on Kartarpur Corridor and how would it help our Sikh communities to boost their spirituality?
Well, I was one of the very fortunate few who was invited to the opening of the corridor, and it was an incredible experience last November. And I really have to hand it to both the governments on the initiative and my experience and all the Sikhs who were with me. We felt that this was something that was really for the Sikh community, and once we've been asking for a very long time, and so it was a very important opening for everyone from the Sikh Dharam, and it was, it's just a pity now that it is no longer open because of coronavirus. But it was an incredible move forward, and there was a lot of hope as well that it would lead to a positive recognition of the Sikh community, and we had hoped that it would help the Sikh community that is still residing in Pakistan.
So do you fear any sort of a hidden agenda of Pakistani government in terms of supporting Khalistani elements on one hand, and on the other hand they are trying to give a sort of a good gesture in terms of opening Kartarpur Corridor?
That's difficult to really say, but I think I would question, like all the Sikhs, I was initially, hugely gladdened and impressed by the gesture that this was taking place. But I have to say that things haven't really improved for the Sikh community in Pakistan at all. And when you look at what was the percentage of minority communities in at the time of partition, and the ones who were left behind in Pakistan, it was like 27%. And when you look at the percentages now, they're down to, something like 2 or 3%. And so there has been this continuous conversions and people fleeing and not being able to practice their faith. So I think, one has to question what was behind the motive, because we had a recent case post the opening of corridor where a young woman at Nankana Sahib was abducted and forced to convert, and there wasn't really any strong measures taken by the government there. And really, if this had been a real gesture to recognize the Sikh community, you would have expected them to have taken very strong measures against the perpetrators of that act.
So there is forced conversions of Hindu as well as Sikh girls, as you mentioned one case. Have you ever raised your concern and voice as a British politician and being the former member of European Union?
Well, indeed, I've raised it a number of times. In fact, I've raised it within the Parliament itself, in the European Parliament. I've raised it on my visits to Pakistan. I have been there twice as as part of the European Parliament delegations. And I've raised it in the UK that it is of huge concern to us, the well-being of the Sikhs who are, remaining in Pakistan, that they must be allowed to live and practice their faith in whatever way they want to. And I've always been given those assurances, but I must admit many of this tended to be very hollow, because you would hear of another case following these reassurances.
Have you ever heard any positive response from the former British citizen who happened to be now Governor of Punjab in Pakistan, Mohammed Sarwar?
I've spoken and I've met Mohammed Sarwar several times, and he did actually say to me, come to Punjab and have we'll take you around. I've met him briefly once. He was actually the governor in European Parliament, and I did stress about the issue of the Sikhs, but it is something I could raise with him. Again, he was trying to reassure me that they were very much concerned about the well-being of the Sikh community in the area.
Finally, I'd like to know what is a solidarity point from British Sikh community towards your human rights causes?
Well, I think your ordinary, everyday Sikh community are very concerned about the Sikh community in Pakistan, and they want to ensure that they are able to practice and live within their religion in that country. However, there are many who have a different agenda in UK, and their agenda really is to let's say have a blind spot to these things. They tend not to acknowledge the let's say the perpetrators or the acts that have been practiced against the Sikhs. They tend to be very dismissive, because their agenda is to really disrupt Eastern Punjab, Indian Punjab, and they seem to think that somehow they would be supported in Pakistan. I think, in my view, it's a very misguided policy, and I have huge concerns about that, because I think majority of the population, the Punjabi Sikh population in UK, identifies itself with India and Punjab, and that's where their families are, that's where their concerns are, and they want to continue to support the Indian Punjab, and they do not wish to be aligned with the Pakistani Punjab.
So in the end, anything you'd like to add in your message and you think we are missing in our conversation?
Well, no, I would just like to say that, we need to ensure that we take up action and support the Sikh community wherever it might be in the world. And we do not allow people who have their own political agenda to hijack that debate and try and find mechanisms and perhaps make presentations to the representatives of the Pakistani government here to say they must ensure that the rights of Sikhs in Pakistan are maintained and they are not violated.
Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate your take on those very important and sensitive issues.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Tech TV UK Talk Show, London Dialogue and Discourse. every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. UK time. Subscribe TAG TV YouTube channel and press the notification button.